This swimming season we are celebrating 100 years continuous activities of the Randwick and Coogee Swimming Club. And to commemorate this milestone, the committee is preparing a written and oral history of all the activities of the club. We have researched the records of old and current members and local organisations to obtain written and pictorial information, and we hope that this video will portray to some extent the locations, events and people for both the Randwick and Coogee Amateur Swimming Club, a monument in Coogee community activities. Today to Fred Randall, who's the son of the foundation secretary, Mr. Fred Randall, and the club was formed in 1896. Fred has some information about his father, and we'll just ask him a couple of questions. Fred, I believe your father was a very good swimmer, wasn't he?
Well, he was a strong swimmer. He wasn't a competitive swimmer, but he could swim.
Coogee Surf Club? Coogee Surf Club?
Yeah, he was a member. He was a foundation member of Coogee Surf Club, as far as I know.
I believe you attended the 75th Centenary celebrations of the club.
Yes, they were held in the Coogee Oval, in the clubhouse at Coogee
Oval.
Yeah.
And you were the guest speaker?
I was the guest speaker, yes.
And your mother was?
My mother came with me, yes.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
But
she would have been a fair age at that.
Yeah, she was 84 when she died.
Right. He loved to teach children how to swim.
Yes, that was his. We'd go away on a holiday and it'd always be to a beach. And yes, you could bet your life he'd be coaching some kids in swimming somewhere along the line.
We're interviewing Norm Hobson now, who was the son of Will Hobson, who was one of the first proprietors of the Coogee Aquarium Baths. And Will was the proprietor back in the early 1900s when we first started swimming at the club. His father was one of the old-time champions of the club, and there is a photo which we are producing now that will be in the history of the club. Norm, perhaps you might tell us about your father and how he came to be at Coogee.
Yes, well, he was born in Maryborough, Queensland, and he worked with his father up there on a sugar plantation. And anyway, the grandfather, his dad, decided to come down to Sydney. Well, they came down to Sydney, and of course that was when he purchased Coogee Aquarium, the whole complex. Right. And of course the swimming baths was part and parcel of it, and of course he was the first proprietor. It was given to him by his father, and he took it up from there and managed the baths from then on.
Right. Your father was called the Randwick Coogee Flyer.
My dad, yes.
Yeah. What was the reason for that?
Well, he was a very fast man, and I believe that one of the swimmers came out from America, and he was the first man to introduce the crawl in the bars at Coogee. And of course my dad, he was swimming ordinary stroke, and no sooner had this swimmer got out of the water that he was in the bars, in the water himself, practicing this crawl. And I think that his swimming evolved actually from that time. This must have been early in the 1900s. I don't know, maybe 1903, 1905. I'm just not sure.
He was also a diver.
Yes, he was in the troop. He used to speak quite a bit over the dinner table about his proneness and what the tricks they used to get up to. I believe the starting blocks was just over the water, and the staging came down just touching the water. And what he used to do, used to dive in, and of course he'd get underneath and come up underneath the staging, and he'd be there for about a minute or 2 minutes, you see, and everybody thought that he'd be drowning. And of course when he thought it was time, he'd come up, you know, and all this sort of thing, and these are the sort of antics that they used to get up to in the bars.
An old-time member of the club, who was a member from 1936 to 1948. And his father was also a vice president of the club for the same period. Alan held quite a few records and championships of the club, and we'll just ask Alan now his reminiscence of the club in the old days. Alan, how many members would be in the club in those days?
Oh, very likely 300.
That's the seniors and the juniors? Or the...
No, I think Saturday mornings we used to average about between 270 and 300 boys. I don't know about the seniors.
Right. One of the things that we noticed in your newspaper clippings was the Christmas parties. There seems to be some stories behind these Christmas parties.
Well, they were put on for the boys on Christmas morning to keep them away from the homes where the mothers were getting the Christmas lunches together, and we used to swim, and as a result of our swimming we were given sweets and soft drink while the men were in the clubhouse with an 18-gallon keg. Which was very interesting when you had to walk another 3 miles home.
In 1942, you showed us a trophy that you won, the Harold Healy Memorial. Could you just explain what that was for?
That was for that was swum at the old main bars in Sydney, and it was in remembrance of Harold Healy, who was a champion in his day, and I was just fortunate enough to be the winner of it, and I have a very nice trophy that I've kept all these years from it. It was quite nice.
Cobbin?
Yeah, Ron Casey, Russ Cobbin, Theo Van Ducteren. Oh, I could go on.
Theo.
Kevin Vickery, Jack Homer. Oh, if I say that, it just goes on. You look at the history books and the names are there, and I've swum with them all.
anniversary of the club. Were you prominent in the arrangement of the functions that they held?
No, I wasn't myself. My father was a vice president and a handicapper and a timekeeper in those years, in that period of time, and he was certainly involved in not only the preparation of, which was quite large, the preparation of the event of the 50th anniversary, just the insurance on it, I recall, was quite a lot of money, just in case it rained that night and washed everything out. But I never personally had anything to do with it. All I was fortunate enough was to win an event on the evening.
Eric was made a Life Member in 1959 and won the Cess Pippin Trophy in 1951, 52, 53, 4 and 4, 5. Also the Farthing Trophy.
And that was never a life membership blazer.
It was just an honour blazer,
Yeah.
was it?
That was the one that I had as the captain
Right.
from those particular years.
So you didn't get anything for a Life Membership?
No. I was a race secretary down there, and as a race secretary I used to look after all the handicapping of the children. They'd be at 200 or better at a Saturday morning. And from that size to that size. But it was a very, very good club. Of course, the old pool, which was the down here Charlie Hobson's, the aquarium, it was excellent. And everything ran very, very well. We had the children, and they behaved really excellent. Their parents they were the hardest of the lot to put up with the parents. Rolled into the pool a couple of times while I was timing. You know, you're standing on the side of the pool, you're looking at your clock, and next minute a kid of this size will run past and over into the pool, fully dressed. It brings back a lot of good memories. Where they used to discharge and refill from. Many, many times I've scrubbed the bath out, the pool out with old Sam Smith and Charlie Hobson. Used to go down there at night and get the old broom and up the wall we used to go. Yeah, we used to do that at night.
We're interviewing Jack Cano, who's a prominent member of the community. He's lived in the area for 80 years. Jack's was a member of the club in the 30s. When did you first join the club, Jack?
I joined the club at about 1931, 32. That's when I joined the surf club as well. And as soon as I joined the surf club, they found that I was a reasonable swimmer, so they conned me into joining the Randwick and Coogee Swimming Club. And with a lot of others from Maroubra Surf Club and Clovelly Surf Club, we used to have some keen tussles each Wednesday night.
Suddenly, Jack, is the 1937-38 Senior Championship, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the club championship. It's a replica of the original, but and I was fortunate to win it in 1937-38. I wish I could swim as good now. Time takes a toll. But when I first went down there was a minor Wiley pushes in the water and all that sort of cabo.
Today we're interviewing Des Renford, who is a long-time member of the club, well-known swimming identity, and we'll just switch over to Des and ask him a few questions about his involvement with the club. When approximately did you join the club, Des?
I joined in 1936, Murray. The 1935-36 season, January 1936, I went down there. Where I think, gee, they're getting it pretty easy now, because we used to have to, my mum and dad couldn't afford the fares, so I used to walk right over the hill from Maroubra to Coogee down Arden Street and compete. And we'd go into the pool, and Charlie Hobson owned the pool. And what you do, you'd get one of your mates he had the kiosk there, and he was a pretty miserable old bastard. And it used to cost you threepence to go into the pool. We'd get someone to tie him up at the kiosk and say, can we have one of those clinkers? No, not that, we'll have a chocolate tea, and we'd drive him mad having him backwards and forwards. And while we tied him up there, 3 or 4 of us would slip underneath the turnstile and get in for nothing, and only one bloke could play. So that was one way of getting in. And another thing is that we'd have to walk, after we'd swum, we used to have to walk back home again up over the hill. But I enjoyed the Saturday mornings down there. I can remember, if I'm not talking too much, I can remember with Mrs. McGowan, Johnny McGowan played first grade for Randwick rugby, and John was a member of the club, and he won an 55 yards age championship. And his mother said to me one day, I'll take you to town to the movies. I'd never been to town. I realised then that I'd never been to town. And it was the Depression years, and I had the backside out of my duds and wearing the hand-me-downs of my elder brothers. And I didn't even have a pair of shoes. My mother went out and bought me a pair of sand shoes so I could go to town. And to this day, it's one of those things that I'll always remember. I remember going in and seeing Spencer Tracy and Mickey Rooney in Boys Town at the St James Theatre, and seeing this black fella come up out of the pit and play the organ. I just thought it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, and that happened because I was a member of the club and one of the parents decided to take me to town.
Yeah, great old reminiscences. Ron Casey was a member of the club too.
Yeah, Ron was a damn good swimmer. Ron won a New South Wales 220 yards junior title. He was a fine swimmer. He was a good club member, and I can remember he was much the same as me. He didn't have 2 bob to rub together. And Ronnie used to go down after he was coached by Sam Smith. I was coached by Terry Summergreen. And after the coaching lesson was over, Ron used to have to stay back and scrub the pool out with this damn big broom, a great big hard broom. And he was only a little guy, and he and Sam Smith would be in there, and that used to cut out the training fees, which it didn't cost him any money to train.
Right. Norman May was another member of the club.
Yeah, well, isn't it nice that we've still got those affinities, you know? Norman May and Ron Casey are 2 of my closest friends, and I've never ever lost that friendship. Norman was also an Eastern Suburbs 220 yard champion. I think he's gone on to become the greatest swim commentator this country's ever had, probably one of the all-time greats as far as sporting commentators go. He was a good swimmer too, yeah, Norman.
Today we're interviewing Peter Carney, who's been a club member since 1965-66 and also club secretary since 1976. Perhaps Peter may give us some memories of his old experiences in the club.
My memories of the club started in that same year, 1965-66, down there at the aquarium. When I started, I competed in a 20-yard race, and the most important thing I remember about it was the fact that you had to win the race or win your heat and then compete in the final in the afternoon. It was a lot different in those days to the way we currently conduct the races. Another memory would be the Christmas parties where Santa Claus would arrive on a float and be pulled up and the length of the pool to hand out presents at the other end. And I think one year poor old Santa ended up in the drink, a bit wet when he was giving the presents out, but certainly made for fun. I'm pretty sure that might have been the last year we had down in the aquarium in 1969.
Some of the people who have helped to make the club a success in your 30-year span as a swimmer and official.
Well, naturally there are quite a few people who have had a significant influence on the activities of the swimming club. And going back to the 60s and the days of the aquarium in the early 70s, naturally people like Jeff Gately as president of the swimming club certainly stand out. The Swab family, both John and Roy, Dick Cotter as treasurer of the club there for a while, they certainly kept the club going in those days and certainly went through some traumatic times in having to move from the aquarium to the Ross Jones pool and then up to the Coogee Randwick Swimming Club. There have been a number of other people who have helped the swimming club along. We went from President John Conley, who held the position for 1 year, and he handed the reins immediately over to Maury Daly, who has been with us since the early 70s. We've had a number of committees over those years, each of them working hard to foster the ideals and goals of the swimming club in terms of conducting the races and running the Learn to Swim. And each of those committees have ensured that the swimming club's continued on today. We have a number of parents even today who are members of the committee and who do not have children swimming at the swimming club. They are the sort of people that have helped the swimming club reach its centenary year. As an official of the swimming club is fast coming to an end. I'm now moving interstate early this month and I'm in the process of handing the reins over to Michael Parkinson, another up-and-coming young member. We've been through 20 or 30 years of swimming in the club, and I'm sure that even though I have leaving with some regrets, I'm absolutely certain of people such as Michael and the current committee maintaining their interest and enthusiasm within the club. I'm certain that this club will go on for many